Well, if you thought I was mad, I guess you're right.
Oh, just let me
That clock keeps ticking like a metronome, and my thoughts keep telling me to get me home, but my balls keep telling me to let me just let me
Welcome to part 1 of a 3-part review series of the Parnis Dark Lord Daytona. In this part, the first part, the initial impressions, I'll be talking about the watch after less than 24 hours of ownership. I've owned this watch for about 22 hours and I've enjoyed wearing it over the course of a day, so I plan to bring some thoughts together. In part 2, the design review, I'll go into more detail about the watch, comparing it to its Rolex counterpart, talk about its wearability and its timekeeping capabilities. And in the third part, closing thoughts, I'll bring together some ideas about what I think about the watch overall. And what I thought I would do in that section is compare both of these watches, do a versus episode in the closing thoughts section. So with all that being said, let's get into the video. Well, you can't ever go wrong with a black dial. That's what I can say. It is stunning. It is such a cool looking watch. And there are a few things that it has that differentiates it from its cousin, apart from the black dial. But let's get into talking about the specifications and carry on the conversation. Running through the specs of the watch, we have a 39mm bezel diameter, 31mm dial diameter, 20mm lug width, 48mm lug-to-lug length, and a case height, including the crystal and the round case back, of 12mm. The watch comes on a fully polished oyster-style case, solid end-link oyster-style bracelet with a polished center-link section, which I find quite appealing. I think it works well with this model. It comes with a sapphire crystal and a very solid matte black dial. We'll talk about the dial at a later stage. If we look at the crowns, we have 2 screw-down crowns for the pushers, and the center crown, which is not screw-down, is used to adjust the movement and timekeeping. If we have a look at the bracelet, we can see that this is a 2nd generation oyster-style bracelet, and the way I can tell is that the tolerances have been improved greatly. Also, the way the end links connect to the case make the watch a pleasure to wear, but I'll talk about that at a later stage. If we move further down, we can see it has a double trigger single deployant clasp that is very easy to operate. Very nicely milled out steel deployant section with some perlage for detail. Has a very reassuring closure. If we look on the inside, we can see it has 3 micro adjustments, and then further in, it does in fact have a 5mm extension, one of the best I've ever handled. And when I close it, it has a very reassuring click. It's an excellent clasp. So the reason why I ran through those points is because I've owned this watch already, and if you haven't seen the 2-part series I've done on the Parnis Panda Daytona, I can link them in the description below. The only difference between these 2 watches is the dial layout, as I'm sure you can tell by looking at them side by side. But I think they've done some very good things when it comes to the dial on this model in particular. Having a closer look at the dial, we can see that the most prominent feature on it are the subdials and the way the subdials are placed. You can see they play very well with the light, and just as I rotate it around you can see that effect. If I pull it further away, you can see the contrast the matte dial has with the finish. And what I've noticed is that the subdials are not stainless steel in their finish. They are more like a titanium finish. But in saying that, they have a champagne sort of quality to them. It's almost like an off silver golden finish, and it looks really nice. I appreciate it a lot. As we can see, the bezel is very well done, very well inscribed with the white text. And the numerals themselves, the way the numerals and the hands and everything is laid out on the dial, makes it a lot more legible in my eyes. When we compare it to the Panda version, we can see that if it wasn't for the black lines on the hour and the minute hand, it would be very difficult to tell the time at a glance. And now, starting the chronograph, I unwind the top crown, engage it. Has a very tactile click, feels very good to the touch, and I'll let that run for a while. So you might be asking yourself why I called this watch the Dark Lord. Technically it doesn't have a name associated to it, it just has a number. But being black on black, it looks quite sinister in comparison to its counterpart. And I thought, well, one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. If you know anything about Lord of the Rings, you'll understand what I mean. Jokes aside, this watch is awesome. It wears so well. I think it's very understated, and I think that plays the best part in its overall aesthetic, is the fact that you can wear this and get away with it. This is a little bit more brash, a little bit more show-offish, where this is very subtle in itself. And you can see side by side just how technical this dial looks because of the way the sub-dials have been laid out very well. But what I also like is the white minute track that runs around the dial next to the tachymeter. You can tell the time very easily by looking at that white dial, seeing every single point that the numeral hits. It looks excellent. It really is nice. It's really legible, easy to see, easy to tell the time in low light. And with that in mind, let's see what this watch looks like on the wrist. Sitting on my 7-inch wrist, the watch looks awesome. I think it looks so cool. Like I've said in the past, the case height really hugs the wrist, keeps the profile very low. The clasp centers excellently on the wrist, and it just looks so good. You can tell the time at any angle, very easy to read. I think it looks great. So what this watch has for it is its versatility. It's a lot more easy to put on and to wear on a daily basis. It doesn't attract a lot of attention. It is very subtle. But at the same time, what I like is how the light plays on these subdials. I think it adds an extra element that gives a much nicer visual presence to the watch overall, and I can understand why Rolex decided to do this on their previous models. I think it plays very well to the aesthetic, and with the ceramic bezel and the sapphire crystal, this watch is extremely usable on a daily basis. Coming back to now stop the chronograph, you unwind the first crown, you stop it, very tactile feel. And the second crown reset. Let's watch that little sub dial at the 9 o'clock position. Resets perfectly. Looks awesome. In closing, I can say that this is an excellent everyday watch. It's extremely versatile and has a lot more practical applications than its counterpart. But in saying that, I am a bit spoilt for choice owning both of them. And I can say that, like a pair of dueling pistols, I think they go so well together. And if you own one of them, you should own the other, just to have both in your arsenal. So I hope you have enjoyed the initial impressions. What I plan to do is wear this watch for a few more weeks before doing the design review, and in that review I'll talk more about the watch, comparing it to its Rolex counterpart and all of those details. But to all my new subscribers, welcome, thank you for joining, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers for now.